This is day 314 of Zohar. I'll be Pshat, and we're Daf Lamahim and Alf. Kind of like on a tangent here, because we're going to go back to Samach at the end of the Amud. But after Rabbi Abba Amar Amai, which is 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 16 lines about him. Rabbi Abba Amar Amai Ksiv Eitz HaChaim Yisoch L'Gan Eitz HaDas Tov. Says Eitz HaChaim is in the God, and Eitz HaDas Tov, the middle of the garden. Why? So, obviously, we're darshaning why. Symbolically. Eitz HaChaim Ha'Taninan T'ma Chamesh Mea Shenin Hava. Wow. Eitz HaChaim was 500, as high as you walk in 500 years. Now, this is obviously a very symbolic number. Between Shamayim and Oretz, as the Gemara says, is Mahal Chamesh Mea Shana. And obviously, Eitz HaChaim stretches all the way from Oretz to Shamayim. But also, as Adam Rishon, before the sin, before the Chet was tall from Oretz to Shamayim. Presumably, he was that height. And afterwards, he was only 100 amas tall after the sin. So, obviously, there's a symbolism here, which is that the Adam Rishon was able to match the Eitz HaChaim and bring the Chiyus down from to Shamayim to Oretz completely and uniquely before the Chet. And afterwards, he no longer had that connection. Obviously, the connection was diffused throughout all the generations of Adam which followed him. And he was only a paragon of perfection of 100 amas, but he wasn't 5 amas tall. Also, it was much more, the Eitz HaChaim itself, there was much more access to bringing down the Shefa in a much more effective way, by a much more powerful way, when Adam was 500 amas tall and when he's 100 amas tall. And there was actually a much stronger connection between Shamayim and Oretz. The Eitz HaChaim itself brings that chiyus from above to below. And that's we're going to expound upon here. All the waters Bereshis, meaning all the flow of Shefa, comes down here from underneath Eitz HaChaim, through Eitz HaChaim, down here below. Eitz HaChaim, since it's against Mamish, it was literally in the middle, against Mamish is literally in the garden. It diffused the Shefa throughout the entire garden. For not to come Bereshis, takes all the words Bereshis and they diffused, they spread from underneath it. The river which comes out from on high, Hushaya Aluginsa, it devolves, it comes down in the Gan Eden, Vayaba, and comes into it. Tamam Mispagim Malakam, it's a stream for the water separates several sides. V'natal Kulai Ginsa, and it waters the entire Gan Eden, which is obviously the highest Mokam of Avoda in this world. And then afterwards it goes to several other rivers which come out of the Gan Eden, right? Nahari Yotzei Eden. It's actually the river on high, probably, but because that goes out of Ashkos Lagan. But in any event, afterwards, it goes out to the rest of the world. All Chayos Hasoda, everything gets its Chiyos, even the Chayos Hasoda, which are evidently negative forces. They get their Chiyos from these sources which come from on high. How much they come down from the world on high. And first they give the sustenance to those higher mountains, the Parsamana Dachia of pure persimmon, which are, the Gemara Ksubas describes as the rivers in the Gan Eden Elyon, meaning in Shamayim, are which tzaddikim get their pleasure from after they go to the Olam Yonim. They're described as rivers of pure persimmon, meaning that they are fragrant with kedusha, with tara, with all sorts of good stuff in spirituality, and that is on the high level. The same water comes down at a lower level, the same shefa down here below. But first it gives off its fragrance on high, which is its primary fragrance, and then the residual shefa comes down below. Sarkei maton leitz HaChaim. Then comes after Parat Samadachia comes Eitz HaChaim b'spagin tochtoi b'chol star k'fum orchei, and it goes in every direction as is appropriate. Beitz Hadas Tovara mai ikre hachi. Why is Eitz Hadas Tovara called this way? The lavi b'im tzisa. It was evidently not in the middle of the garden, unlike the Eitz HaChaim, with which everything spreads out. Eitz HaDas Torah had another purpose. Eitz HaDas Torah Mayu El Bekin the Yankum Chain Satrin. It is takes its nourishment from two sides. V'yadlon command the young miskamrira, and it is known to it is known or it is defined. I'm not sure exactly how to translate that as getting from the sweet and the bitter. Interesting. Tov and Ra, and not good here, good and evil, but sweet and bitter, because there's it's all good. That's a very fundamental principle, which is right? Everything is good, but there's good which is muscle and good which is mar. Wow, right? It's like kind of like matzah mor, the night of the Seder. You have this idea that there's the ra is really more rear. It's not bad, it's bitter. There's good which is sweet and good which is bitter. An amazing idea. Begin the yankum it trains citron since it takes on both sides. V'yad alone, and it's known that way, or maybe it means that it knows both sides. V'shari gavayu, and they are internal to this tree. They are part and parcel of das, of knowledge, is to know what's good and what's bad, what's bitter and what's sweet, and to understand how to use it. So, and they're both implied. It's called Tovara. It has both elements, and it's called Tovara because that's how we experience it, know it, and know what to do with it. Know what to call good, what to call bad, not because it's actually bad, but because it has to be treated as something bad, as something dangerous. Okay, hopefully we'll come back to this in great extent when we get to later into the Zohar, but this is a fascinating idea. The calling of the Tian Shine Alayu, everything else, all other plants are subsist on the Eitz Hadas, and the other plants are unified with it. Eloin, the higher plants. In other words, everything in this world depends on how we use Tovara, how our Avodah goes in this world. And the other trees are called the cedars of Lebanon. Maninun Azevon, what are the cedars of Lebanon? We actually had this earlier. Inun Chis Yoime Eloin, these are 6 higher days. Sheshis May Bracious to Amrakamran, the 6 days of Bracious, as we said previously. Azevon Shanota, the cedars of Lebanon that he planted. And the hills Vada Lis Kaimu Libasar. These are certainly the natios which remain afterwards, and they sustained by our avodah with the tovara in the world, which therefore is attributed to the Eitz Hadas, knowing how to use tovara. Okay, we'll stop here for today. A lot of good stuff.